Welcome to MONOGAMISH, the show that reveals the true nature of the modern matriarchy. Today, I'm going to throw some real black pill bombs on you. This one's going to be geared a little more to women because they're the ones causing all the problems. But for the men, listen up. I'm going to talk about the shit that you're going to be dealing with these concepts of romantic delusions of the one. We're going to have some charts and graphs and get into some of the nuts and bolts of the inner workings of failed modern relationships. Now, remember, the main thing that I'm trying to address is the great loneliness epidemic that we are in currently. We're heading into even more, and it's only going to get worse. This great loneliness epidemic is caused by the modern monogamish relationship cycles. This is what my book is about, which will be published soon. And you can find details about the wait list and signing up in the link in the comments that goes to my website. So, to address this great loneliness epidemic caused by monogamish relationship cycles, we have to address the fallacies that are underpinning these modern relationships. And one of the most base level, biggest of these fallacies is the idea of the one. Men and women in the red pill and the blue pill are all trying to figure out what is happening with relationships. They've overcomplicated it. It really isn't that complicated. The reason why people can't figure it out is because they're trying to essentially shove a square peg into a round hole. They're trying to figure out how to make things work in the world in relationships without changing anything and dancing around the problem of feminism. We're not really looking at what has changed and dealing with the full implications of it. Both sexes act like the other sex has it made. Neither is true. Both sides are losing badly in this dysfunctional system. So once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was love that lasted. People had their special person for life, where the concept of until death do us part came from. Before the printing presses, before the romance novels, before the Notebook, before Morning Glory Milking Farm, before the Romance Revolution, people were married for a business arrangement. They had big families that lasted generations, and their families were a joyous part of the celebration of marriage. They might not have even really known each other at first. They were virgins. They grew to love each other over time. They bonded. Their marriage became a family. So, what is the romance revolution that intervened in this system that we used to have for tens of thousands of years? The romance revolution interrupted all of this, starting with the printing press. It happened slowly over time. It didn't happen immediately. Arranged marriages were still the norm even up into the 60s and 70s. The family had greater sway than the individual or the woman. When did this concept of dating even come about? The modern concept of dating that you know It emerged recently in the 20th century in the United States and around the world, largely as a result of industrialization and urbanization. It replaced the formal system of courtship, which was typically a family supervised activity in the woman's home, aimed explicitly at finding a marriage partner. But as the final technology that unleashed feminism on the masses was released in 1960s, birth control. Yes, birth control. This is the final of the three technologies I lay out in my book that created feminism. And the romance revolution was in full swing by that point in the 1960s. Dating began to dominate with the woman's feelings or her broken picker being the controlling choice in relationships. But why did we go this direction? Away from logic and reason, away from family choice, to romance and woman's feelings of choice. There has been a woman-dominated power balance shift to put women fully in power over men. The woman's narrative is the only narrative that matters in the blue pill world. And that power balance shifted from practical, logical decisions made by the community and men to form relationships to an emotional, love-based decision based on a new thing called the woman's choice, which is driven by woman's attraction and romance. This romance revolution, it really is that simple. This introduction of romance being the dominant narrative is where we get this concept of the one, or soulmates, or twin flames. This is the endless search for the perfect partner that doesn't exist. With all these new, majestic, outer level, pseudo-spiritual, new age concepts women drive, they are expecting this magical romance of the soulmate. And they feel empty in their relationships, in their real relationships, because they don't measure up. Remember, everything that women do, they're always projecting. They say that men are addicted to porn, and that's the real problem. It really isn't a problem that men need to get off. Men have 20 times the testosterone of women. I'm not even going to deal with that issue right now. But what is the projection? The projection is that the real problem, women are addicted to romance. That is the real problem. Because of this addiction to romance, they can never be satisfied in a real relationship. And thus, they're always sabotaging their relationships to eventually blame it on their broken pickers. This is not a problem with men. Men will stick in there and hang in for even a bland relationship because it is a reliable, safe piece of ass, even if it's not the greatest. Men tend towards stability. Men are the ones who hang in there. Women are the ones who are not hanging in there. This leads to a constant breakup culture, a divorce culture, monogamish, short-term monogamish relationships. They start out as the one and end up he is a narcissist or a monster or lied or just mildly she loves you, but she's not in love with you anymore. And this leads to trauma. And everyone is healing from their trauma. The older people get, the more they have to heal their brokenness. They get into recoveries of all different types because of this trauma that is self-inflicted. The more inner work they do, the sicker they get. And for women, the more standards and qualifications they project onto men. At the same time, they're getting older. Their values going down. They get less attractive to men as their standards go up, and the more entitled they get. They price themselves out of the market. Then we develop a string of broken relationships as the women phase out of each successive relationship, turn and burn, the damage piles up. This is the monogamish relationship cycle. I call it monogamish cycle flow. This is right out of my book. It has the phases. Women are cyclical. They go through phases. And so woman-dominated relationships in the matriarchy go through these phases. This is why it's not a trauma bond. This is what all modern relationships are going through. It is a trauma cycle that women are going through and inflicting on everyone else. This is one of the most important conceptual sketches you need to understand about all, I mean all, modern relationships. The monogamish cycle has 12 steps through its process. This is in the book. I'm not going to get into all this, but these 12 steps are a further breakdown of each phase that's shown on this chart in phase 1 through 3 of the monogamish cycle. Then it starts back over again with phase 0, where the search is back on for Chad and Tyrone. Phase 0 is where it all starts all along, situationships. In the modern world, situationships are dating. This is modern dating with birth control and supposedly no consequences. These situationships are what women try to convert. They have a free sample that they hope they can convert later into a monogamish relationship. Once they've successfully converted the relationship, which looks like commitment, this is where they say, well, I don't sleep around, even though they are. But that's not how I am. I'm just not wired that way. I'm monogamous. I only want to be with one person at a time. That's the little add-on there. They don't just want to be with one person. They want to be with one person at a time in the endless search to find the one. And they convert this into a monogamish relationship, and it goes through these 3 phases of a monogamish relationship. Compliance and submission is the first phase. Everything's great. Then slowly problems develop. This is where we get complacency and rude behavior, routine. The rude behavior eventually doesn't resolve because the idea of the one just doesn't measure up in real life. And so we transition into the exit and replace phase. This is where we get the next Huckleberry. The Chad and Tyrone, I call it Huckleberry, of the situationships. And we cycle through once again. This is why there's no such thing as the one, at least not anymore. The one becomes not the one. Then there's another one. So how do I know all this? Simply put, I speak from experience. I have suffered through the traumatic effects of being the one and not being the one over and over, at least 10 times that I can count in my life. Long-term relationships, over 40 plus years of being in relationships. I speak from experience. I am a casualty, just like everyone else. When I was young, I didn't know these things. I was in love many times. I found the one many times. I believed in all of these delusions. And it was not my fault when it ended. Sometimes it was. But if you want to be honest, every one of them could have been the one. The one is something that comes from staying together and working through life's ups and downs. That is the real one. Now, I'm going to read from you a section from my book that summarizes basically what we've been talking about, just to give you a little taste of where I get this from. And this is in my book. I cut it right out and put it up on here for you to see. My book is a textbook for modern relationship. It has a lot of information. This is just one part. I will read it to you. This is from a section called The Modern Pursuit of Happily Ever After and the One. The blue pill world posits the concept of happily ever after as the standard for all relationships to aspire to. From the entire rom-com movie genre was built on the happily ever after concept of monogamy. This is an outgrowth from the Victorian era romance revolution. Everyone alive today knows people, grandma and grandpa, who married in their teens and stayed together for life. We still believe, or want to believe, monogamy is possible. But this is a delusion of the past that no longer exists. Those days are gone. Still, we hold on to the natural hope to be with one, to be one with another human being we can work together and partner our lives with. This hope is normal and natural, but we've forgotten that the ones of the past grew together that way through male-enforced monogamy, where the man owned the woman and they worked together for better and for worse. The romance myth that there is one perfect person who everything will come together and click perfectly with is a modern concoction of childish delusions of grandeur that leaves out the work and female submission that it took to grow together and to grow old together. People don't just have happily ever after without staying through tough times, disagreements, the woman submitting, the man earning, and there being distinct roles. These conditions that led to relationship success for thousands of years have been rendered obsolete and destroyed, along with the destruction of the patriarchy. Modern women think you can have all the benefits of a real relationship of oneness without these aspects they don't want. This is why they've invented terms, the one, soulmate, my person, and twin flame, to support this fantasy delusion while conveniently avoiding responsibility and detection of the fact that modern feminism has destroyed all real long-term relationships that used to exist. To make matters even more confusing, the blue pill world pushes this delusional concept of the one. Our modern society lives in this romantic delusion that such a person exists. There is somebody for everyone. He or she is just out there somewhere, floating around in the cosmos. You have to find, as Robert Plant put it, the queen of all my dreams. The delusions of grandeur that there is a perfect person out there that we are meant to be with by some sort of cosmic sky daddy God power keeps us on this never-ending search for the perfect relationship that never actually materializes in the real world, leading us to the present loneliness epidemic of aging out and burnt out, hopeless romantics perpetually damaged by their childhood trauma from their own parents' destruction, then repeating the monogamish cycles, playing out their broken pickers to actual death instead of till death do us part. So let's review. In the beginning, relationships used to work. They were arranged marriages with families who knew each other, and the woman was a virgin for the most part. How far we are removed from that simplicity and purity of what relationships were once upon a time. How far we are from a union that was a commitment until death do us part. It was not taken lightly. Modern birth control allows people today to experiment with partners they never would have been with in the past. Suboptimal partners. This experimentation with Chad and Tyrone doesn't negate the bonding experience that sex is. And we bond with people we probably shouldn't be with. As a result of this experimentation, modern people are broken. This is the trauma, the real trauma of monogamish. Actually, the brokenness and trauma that people are healing from in their healing journeys is caused by the severing and destroying of the actual one that they should have been with in the past. The children's trauma is also caused by the severing of the parental relationship and parental alienation that results in the divorce culture of monogamish. Because they didn't stick with the one and have long-term family success, now we need a worldwide socialist government system that is unsustainable and will lead to worldwide collapse to support us because we no longer have families. Nevertheless, the healing journey continues. They try to say, I am the one. I found the one I was looking for, and it is me. This is a cope. Most of modern psychology is a cope. Here is an example of, I come across these things all the time. It's a comment that a woman wrote on a meme on social media. And I read these things and, I read through it of what's actually being said that she doesn't even know she's saying. But this is the type of delusion that people who don't want to admit reality come up with. I'll read it. I highly recommend the group for adult daughters of narcissistic mothers. I just unlearned 33 years of flawed perspective on what love was supposed to be and feel like because of the first person who's ever supposed to show you that fails miserably, you're likely going to end up here institutionalized or even worse. We owe it to ourselves to accept that those parents lied to us and that we look for love and love emotionally unavailable people. And we're scammed into believing that begging for scraps at the table you don't feel like you belong at, but would be burned at the stake for trying to leave. Intermittent reinforcement, neglect and abuse, and putting the other person first and walking on eggshells were all forms of love. And they're not. And I'm sorry for everyone who has never felt safe and loved, especially as a result of growing up believing your support system who distorted that view for you. Better late than never. Some people never figured this out, unfortunately. This is the cope that modern women are telling themselves. And they're really lost. This is how modern women really get into the pits of the loneliness epidemic later on in life, after they've burned and destroyed their love many times over. This is the lie that psychology is selling people, and that modern feminism is, which is the same thing, is selling people. And this is the real issue, that families are never really successful long term because of this endless pursuit of the one. And we all end up old and increasingly single. This is leading to the loneliness epidemic and the coming population collapse. These dystopian realities are the new normal. But what isn't the new normal is finding the one. Only a constant searching for the one. It's a lie. It's not true. It's a delusion. Well, the one increasingly becomes more the one who got away. If we're honest, we know after the fact and come to realize that it may have been thrown away. And this is the culture of monogamish that we live in, that has destroyed family, children, our spirits. And I know that's dark, but it's in accepting this that we can begin to start dealing with it in a healthy way. And that's what I'm trying to help people with. Most of these people on the internet, these relationship coaches, they're selling a dream that's not real. They're selling hopium. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Without male power, we're stuck in this situation where women are dominant, and we will continue to devolve into a collapsing situation while these women continue with their unreasonable expectations and continue to try to convert criminals into nice guys. They're not going to stop, and we lack the will to stop them. So this is going to continue to get worse. These charlatan hopium relationship sellers on the internet, they try to tell you, oh, if you just do it exactly right, you'll be the exception to the rule. And I've got this program to sell you to how to do it exactly right. I don't do that. I'm not selling hopium. The idea of the one is really the ultimate blue-pilled hopium that keeps people stuck in this nasty cycle of brokenness. What successful people who were life partners, true monogamy, what they did was they stayed with their person and that is what made them the one. But you say, what about trauma bonds? Aren't trauma bonds what make people feel like they found the one? No. Trauma bonds are not the one either. That is just an intense connection where you refuse to work through the actual trauma you've caused yourself. It's a cope. There are millions of different alibis people call trauma bonds as a scapegoat to describe their dysfunctional bonding in general. The real trauma bond is life. When you go through life's challenges, life's up and downs with another person, and you stay with them and you grow to love them in the process, this creates the true love of the bonded experience that we used to have. Repeatedly severing your emotional, spiritual connections with people whose relationships that you sabotage because you couldn't get your way or always thought there was someone better out there. These are self-destructive and chaotic episodes of bonding you call trauma bonding, are just a dysfunctional lifestyle that I'm calling monogamish, which is short-term relationships that cycle and run through a woman's emotional phases and attempts to exercise power she shouldn't have, ending up prematurely sabotaging all of her relationships, all of her family, and the world by extension as a result. Like and subscribe to my videos. We're just getting started here. The book to be published soon. I'm working on the final details of Monogamish, how the matriarchy came to rule the world. This is a textbook for exactly what to expect in modern relationships and how to make the best out of this dystopian reality we find ourselves living through called the loneliness epidemic. I don't claim to have a solution or hopium, but I can tell you what causes it precisely, what you're in for, and how to best manage it. See you in the next one soon. Godspeed, and may God keep you until then.